What's up, guys? This is a highlight game from ESL Cup Weekly. This was, I think, a week or two after they moved it to Mondays, and some people on my stream said, "Hey, maybe you could play one of the weekly cups that might be interesting." And I said, "Okay, let's give it a go." So this is the second round of ESL Cup versus Future. And if you've been paying attention to my YouTube, you've seen different highlighted videos of games from my stream, but I feel like I just want to add something a little bit extra to it. So I'm deciding to give commentating them, giving a little bit extra insight maybe on what I was thinking. Because a lot of times when I'm in the game, I have a thought where like, oh, well, I'm going to do this because of this, and then I get dropped and I'm like, oh crap, and then I'm just totally thrown off of my train of thought and I cannot remember what I was talking about at all. But this way, I can kind of shift between my in-game sound, what I'm saying in the moment, and then add to it, or maybe say something that would be good for context that I didn't even think of at the time. So I'm hoping this is a little bit more. I mean, I'm not going to commentate my game like a caster, right? Like, we're just giving some POV behind the scene thoughts. But also, we're making fun of ourselves a little bit as we make some silly mistakes in hindsight. I'm sure there'll be a lot of funny things I say in the moment where I'm like complaining about something dumb. But who knows? I have no idea. I usually don't watch myself, so I don't really know what I say, but I'll be really excited to find out with you guys. I'm seeing messages, but I'm too slow to read them, and as this game's ramping up, I'm going to stop reading them completely, but I'll definitely get to some of the things after the game. I always read up the chat. I'm sure you understand. So I believe this is the first game versus Future, so we really haven't felt each other out. We haven't played each other in many years in tournament. I think maybe the last time I played them ever was on a ladder, maybe, oh man, I don't know, one month ago. So slight familiarity, but not on a tournament level. I mean, it's not like ESL Cup matters that much, but it is slightly different. First thing you'll notice is my third base is up there, not the normal triangle base. What am I doing? What am I doing? Some cheese or something? For people who haven't seen me play Eternal Empire ZBT, I always take this base. And I was really excited actually to see what would happen if I took it versus a very good player like Future, because I don't think I've ever played Future on this map or any player that's like been really good. I was thinking with the map, how the layout is, I could get away with it greedily, but in the end, not the case. So what does this third base mean when you're taking this on Eternal Empire? Well, if you take this base, you're making the rush distance between you and the Terran player very short, because they still have to take the triangle. So this comes with some advantages and some disadvantages. So the rush distance is close, so you're going to have to play Roach to play defensive, but also our potential Roach timings are much stronger. So I scouted 3cc, pretty quick 2 racks out of that, and that's pointing towards really quick medevac timing really in the next minute or two. I'm gonna fake like I'm going all in. Take advantage of how weird the situation is. It's gonna be extra sensitive to weird moves just because I'm playing so strange. It's definitely on high alert right now. I'm showing very low drone count on the third, so he can't help but react to how strange I'm playing. So like I said, I do this build, or this base rather, so many times, but I do understand what I'm doing is not normal. So I'm definitely playing into that image very well by doing roach pressure. He very intelligently scanned my third base to confirm whether I was droning up the third base, but it is no big deal for me. That's totally worth a scan, just moving my roaches around. So I was pretty happy with that. I was just saying I need to be really tight so I don't die to any medevac timings. As long as I'm tight, I won't die to anything, which is true, but as I say that, I'm supply blocked. Versus aggression in the first 6 minutes. As long as I play it well. So let's play well. As long as I play well. Just as my two Obies pop, and unfortunately they needed to be like 5-6 seconds faster. Actually quite a bit earlier than 5-6 seconds. It's gonna hurt me so much. I'm not gonna lie, I'm shitting myself at this point. I never have gotten blocked at this bad of a time, but it just shows that everything was good until the block. Won't work, luckily. It just shows that this build, or any build that's quote-unquote safe versus certain things, are only safe under the assumption that you're playing at a certain level. And especially because I'm playing a very good player like Future, that level is increased. Need at least 63, hit 63. So I keep saying 63, 63, 63. I'm talking about drone count. And normally I go 66 and take 6 gas, but because of my drone damage, I'm not going to be taking the 6 gas. I'm going to be cutting it. Now it's my turn to do a timing. And if my knowledge serves me well, he shouldn't have enough tanks to hold this really strong. Maybe we can bait some out of position movement. So we are cutting the 6 gas to get more of a crisp timing to spite the damage done earlier, but that means our Ravagers are weight in gold as we just take our 6 gas now. And we're going to have to be very, very careful with how we move these Ravagers, but we also need to bio everything. So this is a very, very tense situation to be in. This is a big push in as the last tank dies, but there happened to be a tank just behind it. Did I say last tank? I meant second to last. Whoops. Of course, yes. Be really nice to get an armory. Now, the third base was weird, but you'll also notice the fourth base is in a different place than you're used to, and this base actually isn't that unusual once you take the third base up there, because if I took the base at my next to my main base as my fourth, I would have a really difficult time to drops, because I'd have to have enough roaches to defend the fourth, and then also enough to defend my main if they decided to lift and boost over there. Now, you do have to deal with a little bit of back and forth between that and main with this position, but it's way easier to travel from mat to main with roaches than it is from main to fourth base down there. So this is just emphasizing my pushing power. I'm super heavy into fights with this army, but I'm a lot weaker versus drops. So I'm going to lean into the ability to defend his 2-2 timing rather than lean into my ability to defend a drop at my my fourth or whatever that would be, while defending a 2-2 timing. That'd be way more difficult for me. So I'm kind of leading into perhaps my strengths as a player, but mostly just my strengths as my build, but also my composition and my bases. It's pretty cool. Fourth base is being put up. This is around his 2-2 timing, so I gotta be really careful. Now you see he's kind of creeping out in front of my gnat, and now he's going into my natural base. You can kind of see how something like this could be difficult if he was at that lower base. And because of that very reason, I take the very top base as my 5th. Maybe at that point, not as reliable. I do take the lower base at the same time, essentially saying whatever base that doesn't die will be my 5th, because they are both equally unreliable for very different reasons. Fortunately, I'm going really roach heavy because I'm terrified. But I'm sniping off a decent amount of tanks. Now, being terrified and making a lot of roaches wasn't a joke. I don't want to make this many roaches, but because I'm so scared, I literally couldn't help myself from making so many roaches. But fortunately for me, it did help me survive this long. But unfortunately for me, I stayed in the fight way too long. I lost a lot of Ravagers, along with my upgrades. A lot of pressure in the front. So I took both the bases at the top and the bottom. Unfortunately, the bottom base got canceled, but the top, just because of the pushing, was the one to live. So that's now my 5th. It's as simple as that. You could make an argument that would be what I could do for my 4th base, but with roaches, you don't really have as much money as you do like maybe Pureling Bling, for example. But it's true for other comps, perhaps. Now I'm pushing pretty aggressively. Dude, we're putting on a lot of mental pressure right now. We're in very close proximity. There's a lot to be afraid of. I think that's an important note to take, that I mentioned we're in close proximity. There's a lot of mental pressure, and there's a lot to be afraid of, because one wrong move and you're dead. And you can see I'm making a lot of aggressive moves, probably moves I don't deserve to be taking. I don't have a right to take them at this point. But because it's such a close proximity and my comp is so dangerous, he's respecting it a lot. Fair to my upgrades, I mean, it's not far off. Probably not deserved, to be honest. Having altered for this is immense. 3-2 timing. So I mean for this to be a fight with ultras, but unfortunately I moved too quickly. I swoop up the fight and decide to counter to his 3rd base with my 2 ultras going home to defend the drops. But we'll see how it goes here as we go to 3rd base. Fortunately for me, that ultra dies right before armor. Very, very sad. See what we can do with some ultralisks. Oh man, the ultras behind the queens. It's just so frustrating. Also perhaps a little bit unlucky with the roaches in front of the ultras. Yeah, my ultralisks are getting body blocked by everything on this goddamn map. That's funny. Put an emphasis on roaches. Oh, that's a huge mistake. I'm blind as a fucking bat. Yeah, I lost my gnat in 3rd, and I was on 2.5 bases, and now I'm stuck on 1.5 with that. So I have to make a huge move, but there's only so much I can do. Lucky for me, I made a bunch of Ravagers before this, so I can actually snipe this base but at what cost? As the bio comes in, it's a very hard spot to play. Alright, run by, went into shambles. My economy, it's not nearly good enough. Looks like we lost this one, boys. And yeah, and that's GG. He played really well. I thought this was a cool game because it's a pretty long game versus a very good player, and I played a little bit of an unusual strategy, so I'm sure that's very cool to see just how, you know, things like you must always take these bases can be broken and how the strategy changes because of that fact. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoys this highlighted game.